So my passion really is education. So alongside being a coach and helping people move better, it's helping people understand why they need to move better. Some of the limitations that can be caused by our lifestyle, and I'm going to try and use my friend here to explain in simple terms how I can help you move more freely. So whether you're new to exercise or even if you've been exercising for a while, one thing that could be missing from your program could be a preparation for movement. So we usually think of a warm-up as maybe a brisk walk or a 5-minute treadmill run. What I'm talking about is preparing the body from the inside out. And this is where the I Move Freely program fits in beautifully. Because the body is a master of compensation, and if you have a limitation in one area, it can actually cause a limitation somewhere else, or even aches or niggles in a different part of the body. So I'm going to teach you how to move more freely, get your pelvis moving nicely. This can free off the back, help you to run your marathon more comfortably with less risk of an injury. We can reduce shoulder niggles, maybe knee pain, maybe improve your back pain with these simple I Move Freely techniques. Hi there, so this is the perfect start to preparing your body with the I Move Freely program. What we're going to talk about first of all is how you can test your own pelvis function. So if you grab a chair like me, take a seat, cross one ankle over the other, and what we're trying to look at is how high your knee is from the floor. So you get an impression of whether that feels comfortable or a little bit stiff, but ultimately we're going to compare it to the other side. So if you can see how high my knee is off the floor, the other side should be the same. So if you can see how this one's slightly higher, that's an indication that we should do some preparation work in advance of our exercise program. Now I'm going to take you on to the 4-sign exercise, which is a fantastic technique to improve that result. You ready? Okay, so we're going to take the same position, and I want you to think about is this movement. Now we're going to do this movement statically. So to do that, we place the hands on top of the thigh or inside the knee, and now we imagine that movement with only 20% of our maximum effort. So just for a moment, have a think about going as hard as you can, 100%, and then half it and half it again. It's a very low grade contraction, but bear with me, trust me, this is an amazing technique. So this motion, the hands will stop you, 20% effort from these hip muscles, and we're going to hold it for 20 seconds. Are you ready? Okay, so just relax everything and then engage through those hip rotators. I'm going to do it with you. And so as you're doing this, I want you to really focus on what you're doing here at the hip. So it's just a very low grade, very subtle, 20%, and we're going to hold for about 20 seconds. All your hands are doing is stopping the knee from rotating in. And then when we've done a 20-second hold, we take the leg down and then we bring it back up again. So we're going to do 4 repetitions, all right? So again, just relax, hands on top of the knee, and then we go 20% effort, hold it for 20 seconds. And you might be thinking that you don't feel this very much, but that's okay. What we're doing is we're calming the system down and we're desensitizing those hip muscles, helping them to move more freely. Take that down again. Are you still with me? How are we feeling? Now you may at any point during these feel your hip release or open up. That's fantastic. But you might not feel anything, which is why we did the test at the very beginning, so we can see whether we get an improvement or not. Let's take this down again. So I believe we've got one more repetition here. We've got to really be conscious of 20% effort because generally exercise in the past has been thought of as no pain, no gain, right? Actually, this technique has been proven to change lives. It can take tension out of the spine, it can take tension out of the knees, and it can actually improve your shoulder function. The body works as a system, and so starting at the pelvis is the perfect place. Let's try the other side. So this is my slightly higher side, as you can see. So I'm going to do exactly the same technique again, 20% for 20 seconds. Now there's been studies done that show that 60% of dysfunction comes from the pelvis. So this is the perfect place to start. Let's take that down. Let's do that again. Now, some people report that they feel twitching or some sensations, and as long as you're comfortable, you're only pressing with 20% effort, you're doing it right. So if you're following me right now, have a think about whether you feel any different. I feel like this knee's dropped a little bit as well, but we can retest in a moment, and you can tell me. Okay, let's take that down. So in total, this takes around about 3 minutes, giving you time to swap the legs over. The beauty of it is, if you notice, if you sit at a desk during the day and you've got a desk job, you can actually do this as a no sweat workout at your desk. Let's take that leg down, and we'll do one more. So you can be reading an email or answering the phone whilst you're doing this technique. It's really simple to add in to a daily routine. And if you can do it periodically throughout the day, you'll have quicker results. Okay, I think that's it. So let's retest. So if you cross the first leg over, and I believe my knee has dropped on that side, it certainly feels better. And then we go to the other side. Does it feel more symmetrical? It definitely feels like it's dropped a little bit. How did you get on? Okay, so after the 4-sign test and exercise for the pelvis, the next place to go will be the lower spine. So if you take yourself over to a wall like this, and then you want to stand just a little way away from the wall. The arm next to the wall, you're going to bend to 90 degrees, and we're going to lean against the wall. Now this is called wall glides, because we're going to do a gliding action of the pelvis underneath the ribs. So we want to keep the ribs really fixed against the wall. So make sure you're leaning into that armpit there. You might use your hand like I am here, or imagine you've got a newspaper or maybe a £50 note underneath your armpit. So keep the ribs fixed towards the wall in your arm, and then from here, if you watch from the waist down, what we're going to do is a very slow, gentle gliding action. Now if you feel any kind of tenderness, just reduce the size of the movement, and you're just gliding slowly 8 times towards the wall. Try and keep the movement very specific towards the wall, and the aim is not to try and get your hip on the wall. It's a very small movement. It's called like a proprioception of those little lumbar muscles, just to gently free them off, and it works beautifully after you've done that 4-sign exercise we did on the chair. 8 repetitions, and then when you finish that side, you can turn around. And we do exactly the same on the other side. So you do 2 sets of 8 on either side, so you can switch around. Just make sure the movement stays small. It doesn't need to be any bigger. So the beauty of the IMO Freely program is the safety aspect of the size and effort within the movements. That's also the gold dust in the results it can achieve. So remember, they should be very low grade, very gentle, very subtle, but the benefits can be stunning. Okay, so this next technique is to complement what we've done already, and you can just lie down on the floor. The difference, as I've said earlier, with the IMO Freely technique is the ranges are very small but very specific, and what we call it is pure movement. So what we want to achieve here is pure lumbar rotation. So the lumbar spine is the lower part of the spine. So if you get yourself onto the floor, lie yourself down, bring your feet together, and then take the arms out. Now your shoulders should stay glued to the floor. From here, we just want to rock onto the side of the shoes or your foot, but the goal is to keep your knees level. Shoulders glued to the floor, and we're just gently rocking from side to side. What we're not trying to do here, in this particular case, is to try and get the knees to the floor, sorry. What we really want to do is literally just rock from side to side. Now, if you're doing this now, you might actually be quite enjoying yourself. I certainly am. So again, 8 repetitions, 2 times to begin with. And this is a great way to get your lumbar spine moving more freely. So as a complement to the iMove Freely program, we can use equipment a little bit like massage. It's not the same as having a massage, but if we're strapped for cash, you can find 10p, I'm sure, and grab yourself a tennis ball from a local sports shop. And I'm going to show you how we can complement those hip releases and the wall glides and the knee rolls just with a tennis ball. So if you sit yourself on your bottom and we aim the tennis ball between the bony part at the top of the femur, or top of the thigh bone, and then the lower back here. So this strip of muscle here is the area that commonly becomes a little bit tight or problematic. All we need to do is then find a sweet spot. So it means balancing on the arms a little bit, and you have to kind of roll around, and you might find it's quite tender. That's not uncommon, so don't worry. What we don't want it to do is be painful. So we find a tender bit, and then we just hold it. And you try and breathe through it, and you just relax over it. If you still haven't found it, or if it releases, you can just change position again, or you can intensify the movement by crossing the leg and adding more weight. And we might do that for about a minute on one side, and then we take the ball and we pop it into the other side, and it might feel quite different from one side to the other. So we find that sweet spot, and we either relax there, or if you can get into this position, we add a little bit more depth. So another part of the body that can commonly become quite stiff and limiting is the upper spine, or the thoracic spine. And certainly it's an area of the body that can influence down, just like the pelvis can influence up, both positive and negatively. So what we want to do is we now want to improve our thoracic rotation. So what we're going to do is, this is literally just a broomstick. You can get these from any hardware store. I won't name any. Just a few quid. And then what we do is we pop it over the top of the head, resting it through the top of the shoulders. And if you can get your arms over the top, that would be great. If not, you can hold it here. And the idea is that what we want to do is keep the hips and knees nice and still, and we can use the pole to help us as we turn. Now you might decide, if it feels okay, to get a little bit of momentum. And what we can do when we go one way is actually push forward with the other arm, which is going to pull the opposite arm backwards. And that can again enhance and improve our thoracic rotation. Am I getting better? So we would do 8 repetitions, 2 times, twice a day. So we can also mobilize the thoracic spine on the floor. So we just lie back, separate the feet for a bit of balance, and then we lace the fingers together, lengthen out, and kind of lock out the elbows and the wrists. From here, we keep the hips nice and still, and then we rock the upper body side to side. Just make sure you keep your nose level with your thumbs, so the whole of the upper body rotates all together. We do 8 repetitions, twice a day. Another really simple technique we can use is called Helvic Tilts. And this is a nice, subtle way of improving mobility of the spine and the lower part of the spine. Take a lie down, just relax the body first of all, and then if you watch my midsection and my pelvis, from here, we tilt the pelvis in either direction, and this will move your lumbar spine into extension and flexion. If you feel any amount of tenderness, try not to go into the tenderness, just to go to the beginning of it and then edge back. We want to do about 8 repetitions, 2 sets, twice a day. So another common problem that we face is a round shouldered posture, usually from sitting at a desk or working over a table, or maybe that kind of text neck. So what happens is the shoulders pull forwards and we're left with this kind of round shouldering. So this technique is to release the front of the chest. Now this is a common area to be in what we call a subclinical spasm, which means it needs an antispasm. So where we might normally try to stretch, that might be too aggressive in some cases. So what we're going to do is apply the 20% 20-second hold technique that we did on the pelvis to the shoulder. So you can stand or sit, let the shoulders relax back, place the opposite hand onto the front of the shoulder, and what we're going to do is push the shoulder into the hand statically with 20% effort and hold for 20 seconds. Are you doing it with me? Good. Okay, listen. What we want to really focus on is only 20% and hold, and then release, and we're going to do it again. So we're going to do 4 repetitions together. Now what's happening here is we're stimulating a response from the brain to the muscles to encourage it to release or relax. We're going to do 4 repetitions just like we did on the pelvis. Then we let it go, and again. And what can happen is we might be doing stretching that might not be helping. So if that's happening, this might be a great technique for you to try out. Then release. And again, we've got one more on this side. So it's nice and simple. If you have any limitation to bringing the arm across, you could do this against a wall and release. And then we turn around, we do the same on the other side. So yet again, this type of technique can be done very simply, sitting at a desk, maybe standing in the queue at the shops. So it's easy to fit into a daily routine. It's just remembering it really is key. So if we practice together here, second repetition, so that we understand how it feels, how we hold it for a period of time, and then any time you can remember to do this, it's going to be beneficial and help. Let it go, do it again. So it's literally 3 minutes. 3 minutes out your day, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, you're going to see some great results. But what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to complement this, last rep, with some strength training to improve our shoulder function and reduce this problem coming back. So you should, if you move your shoulders around, now be moving more freely in your shoulders. So to complement our shoulder release technique, we could do something like a resistance band, and again, these can be very cheap. You can get these from regular department stores. And we're going to feed it through maybe a banister, maybe the closing side of a doorknob, something like that. So that when you stand back, lengthen out the arms, and we're going to do the opposite movement we've just done on our release. So we pull the shoulder blades back together and then let it go. And the resistance should be enough that it's now applying a strength training application to this technique. So keep the body nice and braced. You want to keep the legs nice and firm, and then literally just squeeze your shoulder blades back together. And you can make this harder by just loading up here or holding further down your band, and then pull back through the scapula. So this should actually get quite hard. We want to really get some resistance in there, so that what we're doing is we apply our antispasm to the front of the shoulder, and then we apply the strength training to the back of the shoulder. This is a great way of improving our posture. With the strength training, maybe 3 sets of 15 to start with, see how you get on. So what we can do to complement the exercises we've done for the shoulders so far is then progress into regular kind of upper body strength moves, like a push-up. Now, a push-up for some might seem daunting if you've seen the ones done on the floor, and we'll look at that in a moment. But what we can do is actually regress right back to the first option, which could be just against the wall with your body weight. So if you find a little bit of space, and bring the arms just slightly lower down than your shoulders, brace the belly nice and tight, and from here, we just take the elbows out and back, and lower the body towards the wall. Now, at the same time as really strengthening through the chest, what we're doing here is actually working the core at the same time. So if we think about it as a whole body movement, then we can really focus on great technique while we're getting stronger. Now, the further away you stand from the wall, the harder it's going to be because you've got a longer lever. So if that's a little difficult, you just step a bit further in. Or if you want to make it harder, you can step further away. Or we can go on to the next progression. So moving on from our wall push-ups, what we can do is use something a little bit lower down, but not quite to the floor. Something like a chair or a table, but something sturdy that can take your body weight. Then we place the hands onto the surface take the feet back. What we need to make sure we're doing is bracing tight through the core so that the belly doesn't sag. And then from here, exactly the same as again. Lower the body down. And we do 3 sets of 15, or if that's too much to begin with, just 2 sets of 8 is fine. So I'm going to show you a little series of push-ups that will go from easier to harder that you can just do on the floor when you feel ready. So a nice easy one to begin with. Just bring the knees underneath the hips, hands underneath the shoulders, and then brace the belly nice and tight. From here, we just lower the chest to the floor, push back up, and that's a great way to strengthen the chest and the core at the same time. We can always make the same technique just a little bit harder. Same position, but this time we take the knees back, so we open up the lever and we do the same again. And then when you feel ready, you can take it to the toes. If that gets too much, just drop the knees and you can carry on. Something we should consider is the way our body is designed to move and what we're actually using it for. So let me give you an example. We're designed to sit on our haunches like a caveman, but we're not, are we? What we're doing is we're sitting at a fixed angle at reduced ranges for long periods of time. So I want you to imagine your day when you sit on the train, on the bus, in your car, at the doctor's, at home, when you eat. It's pretty much always this position. So what's happening is the body is fantastic at adaptation. So when we ask the body to do something beyond what it's practiced at, of course it's going to feel uncomfortable. So what we want to do is start to remind the body the way it's designed to move. This can have a side effect of reduction of aches, pains, niggles, and recurring injuries. So I'm going to show you a few ways to adapt and practice getting back to your caveman squat. So a fantastic place to start would be the pelvic anti-spasm that we've done previously on the 4-sign test and exercise. Once you've done that, what we can do is quite simply use our chair to begin with. And this is what it might look like. So instead of just flopping into a chair, we can use the chair as our squat piece of equipment. So we sit down and stand up, but trying not to lean forwards, instead actually push down with the legs and then lower the body down. What we might do to progress that is sit down, but don't quite sit onto the seat, and then push straight back up. So what we've got is a very low range body weight squat that is within a range that we feel comfortable with because that's where we're sitting. This can give us extra strength ready for when we use more range on the next technique. So to progress on from our chair squat, if you take yourself to maybe a stair banister or a table or something heavy and fixed that you can hold on to, and then just separate the feet a little bit wider than hip width just to start with, see how you feel. From there, hold on, and then you can sit back and maybe just try practicing taking your hips to a slightly deeper range, but with a little bit of help from your balance holding on here. So again, we're doing the same movement, we're just asking the hips to go through a bigger range of motion. We're still only using body weight, so it's all relevant to you, whatever your shape or size. And it allows our knees, ankles and hips to practice bigger ranges. So something to remember when you're practicing a free body weight squat is we don't expect perfection. It's less about alignment and more about how it feels, the comfort within your own body and your own joints. We're all extremely different, and so it's just how it feels to you. So when you feel more confident to use your body weight, of course you can start with the less ranges that we did earlier with the chair. You can maybe try the deeper ones that you did holding on, and then as you feel more confident, we can start to sink a little bit lower and practice those maybe at times like when you're going into a low cupboard. So instead of bending over to the cupboard, we can maybe open the cupboard, practice our caveman squat, and of course the more we do this, we're reversing the compensation. So if you maybe didn't have balance, maybe your body was thrown forwards, or maybe you didn't get down to a very flexed 90-degree angle at the knee, if that's you, please don't worry. It's a very common thing that can happen, and it just means that we need to strengthen the back of the legs or those hamstrings. So that can be really simple. I'm going to show you a couple of techniques just now. So if you didn't succeed in getting to that test result with a nice upright posture and hold it for 3, then all we do is we want to practice. Have a lie down on your back. Bring your hips to your feet to hip width, hands by your sides, and then we're going to squeeze up through the back of the hips and then back down. Push the feet into the floor, squeeze up and back down. So we're putting strength into the back of the thighs, the back of the hips, so that we can have more balance when we leap forwards. A way we can progress this on is to simply lift one foot off the floor. So we're just using one leg to lift the same weight away from the floor. And again, you can progress even further by extending the leg to add a longer lever. And of course, we then swap sides, do the same on the other side. The repetitions, you could start with 2 sets of 8, you could build up to 3 sets of 15. If we do this on a regular basis, maybe every day or every other day, and then we can redo the test and see how we're doing. So I guess many of you may be runners, or maybe you would like to start running. And there are common issues, again, that we've been talking about previously that you can test yourself and then improve in terms of your movement quality or your movement profile. So I'm going to show you a little hopping test that you can do with a little bit of space to identify the strength ratio between the back of the thigh, which is your hamstrings, and the front of the thigh, which is your quadriceps. Is that all right? So to begin with, you'll need a bit of space out in front of you, and you might want to do a little bit of a warm-up just to get yourself ready. And then what we're going to do is we're going to stand on one leg, and you're going to leap, and you're going to land on the same leg. All right? So you want a good leap forwards. You can use your arms as momentum, and what we want to do is land deeply with the knee at 90 degrees, upright in the body, and hold for 3 seconds. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. From here, and so ideally what you should be seeing is a 90-degree angle at the knee, the hip you should be upright, and we should be able to hold that for 3 seconds. Have a go, see how you do. So that's an introduction to the I Move Freely program from me, and so go away, have a little practice. Don't be concerned if some of the techniques feel a little bit new or different, or maybe some of them might feel quite hard for you. That is really common, and so what I'm here to do is to help you. So go over to the global community, we can chat over there. If you've got any questions, then give me a shout. Just remember, move well and move more.